Let's introduce the heavyweight champion of the NHL, Bobby Probert! My buddy! All right.
San Jose bench, Probert and Gates, nose to nose. There they go. There they go. These two have never fought before. Ooh, jeez. Grimson. Good Lord. Oh, my goodness, holy smoke. There's the jersey off. Now he's got everything off. Probert's got it all off. These two boys can hurt if they happen to hit.
Well, you see a little extra determination on Probert's face, and you mentioned that you don't always
No,
see.
you don't. No, you don't.
Let's get it right. No hard feelings there, eh?
Good guy.
Good guy. Can throw him, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you saw him in a bar. I don't know if you go and buy him a drink, but he's a good guy, right?
Sure is.
And all those guys are good guys. Only one guy you don't like. We won't get into that. But let me, one night.
That?
Well, the little guy, you know what I mean?
Dummy.
Oh, a little dummy. Oh.
Look out, baby. Tie Domi usually has trouble against big guys with long reaches. And this guy is a character. He's an entertainer. And look at him swinging at Probert. Got the left going. Probert dinged him with a right. Boom! Probert's got a mad on now. He knows Domi's a tough kid, and Domi's been threatening to do this fight for a long time, and he made no bones about it. And anything near a draw, Domi's going to go off of here and feel like he got a win with all his home folks here. Look at this, boys, oh boys. Look out, did he ever ding Probert with a left there? Oh, my God. Whoa. Oh, Probert stroked him in that one. Holy, that's incredible.
He would never lose a fight. He would simply run out of time. A man who grew stronger as the battle dragged on. His legendary career was punctuated by epic showdowns. Among his most renowned bouts were those against Tie Domi. After their first encounter, Domi made the mistake of gesturing that the Undisputed title now belonged to him. This player, however, reclaimed the belt with a resounding beatdown in their next meeting. His bouts with Craig Coxe, Stu Grimson, and Marty McSorley were the fights of legend. Some of the best fights hockey has ever seen, marked by sheer duration and intensity. He was hockey's undisputed heavyweight champion. This is the story of Bob Probert. Bob Allen Probert was born on June 5, 1965 in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, to Alan and Teresa Probert. His father, being a military man turned police officer, instilled in Bob the values of strength and toughness from an early age. Tragically, Bob would lose his father to a stroke when he was just 14 years old. The day after his father's funeral, Bob, driven by his father's lessons, left for junior hockey camp in Brantford, marking the beginning of his journey in the hockey world. From a young age, Bob Probert exhibited a natural talent for hockey. At 16, Bob had an impressive season in minor hockey, scoring 60 goals and accumulating 100 points. As he transitioned into the OHL, playing for the Brantford Alexanders, Hamilton Steelhawks, and the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, his playing style began to evolve. Recognizing his own physical prowess, he took it upon himself to learn how to fight. As one of the bigger guys, Bob felt he wasn't as fast or as skilled as other players on his team, so he would fight and protect those around him, making everyone better overall and securing a role on the team. It all started when he would get into a scrap and knock one of his opponents out, revealing his natural talent for fighting. From that point on, he owned his skills fighting. And over time, his reputation as a formidable fighter spread like wildfire. and Bob quickly became a fearsome presence on the ice, establishing his physical dominance over his opponents. Fearless in his approach, he had no problem taking on anybody, even challenging the goalies, fully aware of the inevitable backlash from the opposing team. Once he was provoked, Probert would take on the entire team if necessary. His power and relentless instincts drove him to continue battling until the fight was decisively finished. With remarkable energy and endurance, he thrived in prolonged fights, wearing down his opponents and seizing the moment to deliver one final blow. As word started to spread of this 6'3" kid named Bob Probert who was knocking everyone out and defending his teammates at all costs, he caught the attention of NHL scouts leading up to the 1983 NHL entry draft. In this draft, the Detroit Red Wings selected future team captains Steve Yzerman and Joey Kocur, along with Bob Probert, who was chosen in the 3rd round with the 46th selection. By 1985, at the age of 20, Probert spent a couple seasons bouncing between Detroit and their farm team, the Adirondack Red Wings. His hard work would pay off when he would win the Calder Cup in '86 and make his NHL debut, contributing 21 points and accumulating 186 penalty minutes, solidifying his reputation as a tough and determined player.
Probert fires, he scores! Bob Probert from the top of the net.
Sadly, the 1987 season for Bob Probert wouldn't be remembered for his on-ice play. Despite all of his success in 1986, Probert's life and career almost came to a tragic end. On December 19, 1986, Probert would crash his car after somehow passing through border security while being blackout drunk. After getting through border security, he managed to drive about 2 blocks before hitting a pole and totaling his Monte SS, eventually crashing through the window of a restaurant bar in a 30-mile-per-hour zone. And according to Jim Light, upon being arrested, Probert would take on several Windsor police officers that night. Miraculously, Bob avoided jail time for this incident, and this served as a wake-up call for him. He realized he was no longer a kid, and all eyes were on him now. Determined to clean up his act, Bob agreed to go to rehab and get treatment. The Wings also helped Bob out by not letting this incident come to the public eye. The decision by Bob to go seek help seemed to mark a turning point. Probert quickly became beloved by Red Wings fans, and he proved to be a valuable asset to the team, leading to him being given another chance by the organization. Jeremy Roenick called him Mr. Detroit, remarking it was almost like he could do anything in Detroit and get away with it. Around this time, Bob Probert and Joey Kocur famously became the most popular guys on the team, earning the nickname the Bruise Brothers. Kocur noted that around this time, Detroit wasn't like the Red Wings of the late 90s. When someone scored, not many people would stand up and cheer, but when a fight would break out, the place would go insane. By the end of 1987, Probert finished with 221 penalty minutes and 13 goals in 63 games. The year 1988 was an absolute roller coaster for Bob Probert and the Detroit Red Wings. Probert would lead the league in penalty minutes, nearing the 400 mark, finishing with 398, yet he still managed to put up 29 goals, 62 points, and play in the All-Star game. Nobody could deny the fact that Bob Probert was now one of Detroit's most valuable players. Craig Coxe, the first man to fight Probert in the NHL, described him perfectly. He was so valuable every time he played, because wherever he played, the other team feared him so much. By protecting his teammates, he also made them bigger and stronger. Not just that, but it was obvious that Bob didn't care about getting punched. He would take damage during his fights. It was like he had a granite chin. And if Proby ever lost a fight, or thought he lost a fight in his mind, he would have to rematch him the second the 5-minute measure ended. But despite all the success Probert was experiencing on the ice, some of his off-ice troubles began to surface in the public eye. I've already touched on Probert's problems with alcohol in '86, but Bob Probert had been battling alcoholism since his days in junior hockey. Bob wrote in his book he would have about 12 beers a night to help him loosen up, and be a little less shy. Being an OHL star made alcohol easily accessible. He would never be denied drinks at bars, even as a minor. According to his former teammate Bruce Bell, he even missed the OHL All-Star game because he went out drinking with Bell the night before and the two slept in, missing the game entirely. Additionally, according to Probert, he would also start experimenting with hard drugs as soon as he entered the league in 1986. This behavior began to affect not just Probert, but also his team. Similar to when he missed the All-Star game in the OHL due to binge drinking, he and some teammates went out the night before Game 5 of the conference finals against the Edmonton Oilers. And in the middle of all of this, Probert had the playoffs of a lifetime, putting up 8 goals and 21 points in 16 games. At the time, this actually broke Gordie Howe's team record for most points in a single playoffs. However, after Detroit was eliminated the night after Probert and his teammates went out drinking, nobody remembered that or was talking about Probert's incredible run. All anyone could talk about was what happened the night before Game 5. As the next chapter in Bob's story unfolded, he was now widely recognized as the undisputed heavyweight champion in the NHL. Holding that title meant he would have to defend it game after game, night after night, facing what seemed like an endless stream of challengers. Bob Probert was the measuring stick, a rite of passage for opposing fighters eager to make a name for themselves in the league. And their goal was simple: survive. Try to avoid getting knocked out by Probert, and maybe get a few lucky shots off if you can. However, if you've ever struggled with addiction yourself or know someone who has, you understand how all-consuming it can be, even when somebody is truly giving their all to overcome it. Bob started using before games, playing so high some nights, he wouldn't even be able to remember anything from the game he just played. In March of 1989, Bob Probert's addiction had seemingly taken over, leading to another incident at the border. Thankfully, there was no accident, but this time, he wouldn't get off so easily. Probert was facing over 20 years in prison if convicted of drug smuggling charges. He was found with 14 grams of blow and open liquor throughout the vehicle. Bob Probert was now facing jail time and a possible banishment from the NHL. In late March of 1989, Bob Probert received a 6-month prison sentence. Just like that, the 24-year-old Probert hit rock bottom, and it seemed like his once promising career was over. While Probert had faced many battles on the ice, it was his battles off the ice that had now taken over. Upon his release from prison, Probert was initially ordered to be deported back to Canada following his conviction. However, he promptly filed for an appeal. During his appeal process, he was able to resume his career with the Red Wings, but he was barred from traveling with the team to Canada, as he would not be allowed to return to the States. Bob Probert's redemption arc began on March 4th, 1990, as he returned to the ice, determined to prove to his family, loved ones, teammates, and the league that he was rehabilitated. Although Detroit did not make it into the playoffs in 1990, Probert appeared in the final 4 games of the season, fittingly scoring in his return.
Up the right wing side, Barr gives it up, got a Carson, got Probert with him. Carson for Probert, lets the shot go, score! Bingo! Woo-hoo! What a smoke!
In 1991, Probert bounced back, showcasing impressive numbers. In 55 games, he tallied 16 goals and 39 points. But the most memorable moment came in a fight against Troy Crowder, where he avenged what most people saw as a previous loss by knocking Crowder out and launching his helmet right off him into the night.
And away they go. Crowder gets a couple of early ones in. Probert gets a right. The crowd now into that, but Probert nails, he knocked him down.
Over the next 3 seasons in Detroit, Probert recorded back-to-back 40-point seasons, an impressive feat given the amount of time this guy spent in the penalty box. During this span, he remained the undisputed heavyweight champion of the league. But once again, The one battle Probert couldn't win seemed to be creeping back into his life, and his struggle with addiction nearly cut his life short once again. In 1994, as Bob Probert approached unrestricted free agency for the first time in his career, he would be arrested for driving under the influence, crashing his motorcycle into another car. Thankfully, he would escape this crash unharmed. Despite the Red Wings' organizational efforts to guide him since his league debut, they chose not to offer him a contract extension. Probert would then join the Chicago Blackhawks, where he would end up playing for the next 7 seasons. Despite this being the latter stages of his career, he continued to engage in fierce battles with the much younger heavyweights, and most of the time he would still get the better of them. And moving to Chicago might have been the smartest decision Probert ever made. During his time in Chicago, Bob Probert underwent a significant transformation. He would prioritize his family life, becoming more involved with his wife and children during his time away from the rink, rather than indulging in nightlife. His commitment to sobriety was unwavering, marking 8 years of being clean during his tenure with the Blackhawks. And it finally looked like he was starting to win the battle against addiction. In the final year of his deal with Chicago, it became evident that age was starting to catch up with Bob Probert. Seeking to extend his career, he would turn to performance-enhancing substances, which really only bulked him up and slowed him down. Unfortunately, during Probert's last year with the Hawks, struggling with chronic back pain accumulated over nearly 15 years of daily fights, Probert would be prescribed OxyContin, an opioid intended to alleviate his pain. Tragically, this prescription would lead to Probert's relapse into addiction, and in 2002, he announced his retirement from the NHL. Bob was heartbroken by his decision, and days after, he would head out to Vegas for the weekend and ultimately relapse. Not being around the guys, not having his routine really affected Probert. That was all he knew from the age of 14 when he left for juniors up till this point in his life. And in his mind, Bob felt like he was letting his family, teammates, and the fans down. And he felt like he had nothing. And sadly, in the years following his retirement, Bob's troubles with the law only deepened. In 2004, he was tased 3 times and jailed after getting into a verbal altercation with an undercover police officer and resisting arrest. By July 2005, his struggles had escalated even further. After experimenting with mushrooms, Bob reportedly became violent, punching holes in the wall of his own home and throwing kitchen knives around, leading to his wife Danny calling the cops, and the police had to mace him before he was arrested once again. His wife Danny declared that this was the final straw. Confronted with the reality that he might lose his loving wife and kids for good, if he didn't get his life together, Bob finally found the resolve to tackle his addiction. With a renewed determination, he seemed to turn a corner and begin the difficult journey to recovery. And Bob seemed to be on the right track over the next 5 years. He focused on being a loving father and husband from here on out. And ultimately, he decided to put his personal struggles and life story in a book, Tough Guy. The book would only be about 80% finished by July 5th, 2010. On Lake St. Clair, Bob was enjoying retirement when seemingly just an ordinary day would go down as one of the darkest days in the hockey world. Bob and his wife Danny went out boating on the lake as they often did, when Bob Probert would suffer a severe heart attack and would later be pronounced dead at the hospital at just the age of 45. Bob's sudden death was felt throughout the hockey world, and his ashes would fittingly be spread across the penalty box at the Joe Louis Arena. In 2011, it was revealed that Bob Probert had also been living with brain damage. Researchers at Boston University announced that Probert had chronic traumatic encephalopathy, better known as CTE, a progressive and fatal brain disease linked to repeated traumatic brain injuries, including concussions and repeated blows to the head. The diagnosis was made through the analysis of brain tissue donated by Probert. Now, I'm not going to go into this too much, but if you want to learn more about the brain injuries Probert dealt with, I recommend watching his documentary Tough Guy. It's a great watch if you haven't seen it. Bob Probert won many battles in his life, but his greatest and toughest opponent was sadly his addiction. Despite this, his teams, friends, and family never gave up on him. And Bob never stopped trying to overcome his struggles. He was human and made mistakes like everyone else. And he also faced underlying issues that most of us will never encounter. Bob Probert will forever live on in hockey history. His legendary fights are etched into the minds of those fortunate enough to have witnessed them. A Detroit sports icon, Bob Probert's legend will never die, and he will always be remembered as a tough, proud man.